Oi, oi, Savaloy! Well, we start this show with a fish. More about this fish later on. But in the meantime, we're going to Fryerning with a couple of the young guns from the scene. Lovely lads. And I set them a challenge of catching a single, a double, a 20, a 30 and a 40. I've done it myself once in the past on my own. So I felt like it was a good challenge for two of them. Let's see how they got on.
At least 4 or 5 here, didn't we?
Well, that's that same spot in it from when we walked around before. They're still going out there. But it feels too hot to fish on the bottom, doesn't it? So you bring the floater gear, but I think probably...
What are you thinking, putting one on the deck?
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe give it 10 minutes, see if they start taking. If not, go back to the van, get the bushwhacker a bit of bait and potentially put one out. No harm in having one on the alarm here and then just sort of roaming about a little bit. But yeah.
Best of both worlds.
Definitely a few about though, isn't there?
Proper coloured up.
It looks like they're feeding on the bottom more than anything. There's one fizzing there. Loads of fizzing next door. Look at that, look. And over there, look. Yeah. I think I need to go back and get the rest of the gear, mate, to be honest. I want to float a fish because it's more exciting, but there's so many fish feeding on the bottom. It's one of them, isn't it? Yeah, I'll go and get the stuff.
Well, while Jacob is down the bank on the other lake with a big average size, I've came up to the kids' pond. The challenge includes trying to catch a single carp, and it appears this lake has quite a few single figure carp. I've actually just lost one about 3-4 pounds, and believe it or not, it seems to have spooked the fish out the area. But I'm going to persevere on here, try and catch a single figure carp, get the challenge up and running, and then I'll probably go join Jacob on the other lake and try and catch a mid-double or possibly something a little bit bigger. But for now, I'm going to have a little mooch, see if we can get off the mark. Yeah, there's definitely swells. I reckon we're having back rise the pellet. Come on. Yeah, looking up there, it reminds me a bit like fishing in Thailand or something with the little hut in the trees. It's like a little garden pond. A lovely little place. Come on, fish. I'm not that scary. You don't have to hide. There was loads here when I first came up. There was a few like further up underneath them willow trees. Might go see if they want it instead. I just want to catch a single to begin with. Get up the mark. There's a lot of fizzing and coloured water, especially down there.
So, I've been back to the van because we walked around here to start off with and we did see quite a few fish cruising, but they've dropped down a little bit now and they're not showing as much interest in the scum or anything sort of in the upper layers. However, I've seen a lot of fizzing in this little corner. I've seen loads. There's quite a lot in the swim next door as well. So there's definitely a few fish feeding. Whilst I've been tying rigs, I've seen a couple actually show, so they're definitely sort of digging into that silt and cleaning themselves off. I've got one rod out, nice and simple, trim down wafter, load it with the bushwhacker, so 0 disturbance. And I'm just going to tie another couple of rigs, potentially get another rod out. But yeah, they're fizzing all over me, so no doubt it won't be too long before we get the first one.
Well, for small fish, they've actually been quite hard to hook. I've struck out of a couple, but I came back down to this end and there was quite a few fish taken. I just kept waiting until I seen a bigger one. Eventually I seen a bigger pair of lips come up. cast a 12mm Scopex squid pop up right in its nose, and she engulfed it, and that's what we're attached to now. So Jaws just came running around with the camera, and to be honest, it wasn't putting up a fight, but it's starting to wake up a little bit. It could be a double, I haven't really seen it yet, but it's a good start. And once I get this in a minute, I'll be joining Jacob on the big boys lake. Need to catch a single figure carp to start the challenge. And that is what we've got in a minute. Perfect! What a start!
Cheers, mate.
Thank you. Yeah, she's a single, an upper single. That's how we'll do it.
Job done.
Job done. Just got to catch a double, a 20, a 30 and a 40. Sweet. For a barbless floater claw, that was not coming out.
I suppose that angle of them probably helped.
Yeah. Yeah, when it came up, you just knew it was gonna engulf it. Well, here she is. She's very lively. I've unhooked her in the net. The mat is currently in the van, but there's proof that I did catch one. She's gone because she's lively. Perfect. So yeah, next one, hopefully it'll be a little bit bigger than that, but that is the single figure carp ticked off the list. And probably the liveliest carp of the session. Try and get a bigger one now. I'm not going to be greedy. A 40 pound would be nice as the next one.
Sun's come out now and it's getting a lot hotter. Most of the fish are starting to come into the upper layers again, but nothing is actually taking, so I've just reeled in and I'm going to be a little bit more mobile. The odd fish that's cruising around in that scum line is dropping down and feeding a little bit, so every 5 minutes I'm going to move sort of on the fizzers and hopefully one of them drops down for the bait. They're definitely eating naturals. Don't know whether it's bloodworm or something of that sort, because they're digging sort of spread out, just digging here and there, dropping down, feeding for a little bit. So I've put a tiny bit of bait in the spoon, just enough to sort of create a bit of a cloud in the area to try and get one to feed on it. Just going to wait now, wait till I see some fizzing and drop it just off the side of it. There's a few fish just on the surface just there, look. Lovely little lake though. Come on, where's that fizzing gone? One's just shown over there, look. And again. They're active, they're definitely active. I think going into the evening, we've got a really good chance. No, was that a liner? What's going on there then? What the hell was that? Well, I hadn't even put the rod on an alarm from dropping it over there, and my line started pulling away. It might have been a fish swimming through because there's quite a lot of kiting. Weird. Yeah, the blowback tubing's still up, so wasn't a take. We were just looking at one on the top as well. Got to put it back out now. Oh God. Seen any more, Finn?
There's a couple down there, but
not showing any interest.
Not really, no.
No, they look a bit on edge for bread, don't they, really?
Yeah, those.
Bosh. They're everywhere.
There's one common down there just swimming around in circles, but
Wouldn't
don't
take
look
it.
interested at all.
I was saying before, I think this evening we've probably got more of a chance.
Yeah. See if I'm right up against that bank there.
Yeah, that's where
I've its tail.
that's where I've just dropped a rig in.
Is it?
Right up against the side, yeah. Proper good one. Big scaly one. Well, this is definitely a good area. If I can somehow get my lead, potentially push my bushwhacker to this side, come round here, take my rig out of it and everything, and washing line it so I've got no line coming through the water. There they are, look. There's a lot of fish here. Probably because they know they can't be fished for on this bank. Just sort of patrolling across this margin. You can't set up your bivvy and everything on this side, unfortunately, so that's probably why they're all here, to get a bit more left alone. Some over there as well.
It's been frustrating, would you say? It has been frustrating. We've tried for about 2-3 hours on the surface in this little pond, and they've certainly been, I've certainly seen it on the surface before. And then we're just seeing a couple swimming through, and to be honest, I cast at them not expecting them to show any interest.
I was laughing at you. He's going doolally, he started talking to himself, saying, oh, that one, I'm going to have him later for sure. And he literally flicked it out, and it actually took it.
It's a catfish.
It's a catfish? No. That wasn't, I thought it wasn't that one we saw. That carp, I thought I saw it spook off. No way. You've hooked a little catfish.
But I mean, there's a first for everything.
Is that part of the challenge, Joe?
Don't count.
I think that's, no? Well, it's not a double anyway, so.
I mean, I've never seen someone catch catfish on a bit of bread, but I guess.
Slow sinking bread, wallop. That's mad.
Did you see it take the bait?
No.
I like cast at a carp, and the carp carried on. I was like, oh, I thought it was gonna go for it, and then my line started picking up, and I was like, I've must have been a second carp behind the first one, because I have been swimming round in shoals of 2 and 3, and it turns out we are swimming in shoals, but of carp and catfish.
That is mad, you know. Finley doesn't like catfish, so I'm gonna hold it up for him.
I'll tap its head. There we go.
Bosh.
Yuck.
Slow sinking bread. Off you go. Not the target species, but good bit of fun, wasn't it?
Looked like my ex-missus, that.
Luckily, I don't think she's going to watch this.
She was just as scary as that as well.
Oh, he's horrendous.
I have given up. Not completely, I've given up on the man's lake. After that catfish, I'd put a lot of hard effort in for literally that just to happen. So I've had a little break, I've left them fish to it. I'll probably end up going back down there, but I've came back up to the smaller lake where I had that one earlier. Now, there are quite a few doubles in here, so I'm gonna give it another go. There's the odd one taken. I'm gonna try and get a double figure carp. It might be a little bit hard because I have a few small carp about, but I feel like it's the best way just to sort of leave them fish peace and quiet down there, so when I go back down later they'll feel less pressured and we'll catch one. But that one looks like a double, so I'm going to have a little flick at it. Oh, nearly. Panicked there. It's a roach or something.
As you can probably tell, we're on a different lake now. It dried up a little bit. There was still fish milling around on that small lake, but they weren't showing a great interest in feeding, the fizzing stopped. So I've decided to come onto this lake. Apparently it's slightly harder, but in recent years, a lot of the fish have spawned and grown on, so there is quite a good stock in here. But the real big ones are in this lake, over 40 pounds. So this was the lake that I sort of wanted to fish coming here. Went for a walk, start off with Joe. We lapped the lake and we found quite a lot of fish. The first spot we found carp in was this lovely little bay in one corner of the lake, mega shallow, and we saw fish sort of cruising round, dorsal sticking out, fizzing up and stuff like that. Then we carried on into the last swim on the lake, off the back of the wind, flat calm. You could see fish shapes everywhere, some really good ones. What I've decided to do is bring the gear round, quietly put 2 rods out in this bay, because despite seeing so many at the other end, most of the sort of feeding activity was in this bay. So 2 rods are out there, there's fish about, sit here for an hour or 2, and then my plan will probably be to reel in with it being so shallow and set up in that far corner swim. Finley's still running around like a headless chicken, messing around with his bread bombing. Hopefully he catches another couple, but yeah, it's looking really good. So sit down, relax, and hopefully we get a fish.
Well, we're coming into for evening time and it has been a very frustrating but rewarding day. I've been able to catch one. It was only small, but it's all part of a challenge. And from that moment on, I've been flitting between all 3 lakes, trying to catch something a little bit bigger, but that hasn't happened. So we're moving into evening time. I'm in this peg and I'm on the Big Boys Lake. The reason I'm going to be fishing on this lake is the stock is incredible. There's a large number of 40 pounders, possibly a couple around 50 pounds, and I can just imagine the rods being out there tonight. If one of them rods rip off, my heart is going to be racing. Now, I've picked this peg here because it commands the central zone of the lake. Now, I'm gonna lead up. Hopefully I'm going to find a spot in the middle around the 100-yard mark, and the reason I'm going to find a spot out there is because it's the centre. I can just imagine them biggins living out there as they're going to feel safe. Now, I'm sure other people on the lake, they can hit that area, but majority of people, from what I've heard, tend to fish a little bit closer, and I feel like doing something a little bit different could bring one of the bigger ones. So this is going to be base camp. I'm going to get the gear out of the van, get clipped up and try and catch a chunk before dark. I've just finished tying fresh rigs to put out on the spot. Now the rigs that I'm going out tonight are my good old simple blowback rigs. It's a rig that I've got 100% confidence with, and I feel that's really important tonight, especially since I've never fished the lake before. I've had a little lead around there, and the spot that I've found is 26 wraps. Feels to be 8-9 foot in depth. I haven't got a marker float rod out, I've just used the bare lead. And to be honest, it's pretty much like that all across the swim. So I feel like it's going to be really important when I'm putting that bait out to make the bait the feature, adding as much attraction into one area. I'm going to be doing that with boilies, flake, a bit of particle, liquid, just to get them fish grubbing around and picking up them hook baits. To be honest, I'm going to fill it in. There's no other words to describe it, and the reason for that is the carp today, they've just sort of been basking in the sun. They haven't really been feeding, but I can imagine when them temperatures drop, they are going to get on the feed. It might be a bit of a gamble, it might be a bit of a risk, but you've got to risk things in life. So I'm going to finish this coffee, get the rods out and see what the evening has to offer. I've just done my first cast, and like a noddy, I messed it up. But to be honest, I'm not really that bothered. When it comes to evening time or any time when I'm really doing the rods, I can't sit there and think, yeah, that would do. I want to be sitting there knowing that will do. So it might take a few casts, but making sure that I get the perfect drop, the perfect line lay. When I'm sat there at 10 o'clock tonight and I haven't had a bite, I know that I'm doing everything in my power to get that bite. So that cast didn't land how I wanted it. I hit the clip a little bit too hard. So I reeled it in, the rigs came in perfect, and we'll go again. I might mess it up again. Fingers crossed I won't, and then we'll be leaving it out there for the night.
Oh, dreamy.
Dreamy. My big plan of filling it in, putting a big bed of bait out, it hasn't worked. I've woke up this morning after a very long, much needed sleep. Yesterday I was driving down to pick Jacob up from London and I was shattered. So I had a little bit of beauty sleep, woke up a little bit later than I was wanting this morning, but I don't think I've really missed out on anything because it looks lifeless out there. Don't think Jacob's caught anything, I haven't spoke to him yet. And yeah, from this peg I can see a large expanse of water. Haven't seen anything sure, but it's a small area, sort of in a sheltered bay where Jacob was yesterday. There could be a few fish down there, but overall pretty quiet. So the plan of action for today is I'm starting to get itchy feet. Everyone loves to see carp for the cameras, and there is that lake next door. There's quite a few mid doubles and a few 20s in there. So I think what I'll probably do is sit out the morning period on this lake. Then I'm going to get a few bits together, head over there and just try and catch a few more fish off the list. But that's going to be the plan for today. I'm still hopeful that a 30 or 40 is going to show itself from this lake. You never know, there's always a chance when the rod's in the water. I suppose that's just the magical thing about fishing, you just don't know when it could happen. Right, finally into a fish. Last night was relentless. I had no sleep. I moved out of that bay into the evening. I hooked a little one. That's a good fish. That's a good fish. So yesterday daytime, I was in the other bay and I lost a little one and it spooked the fish out. So I spent hours at this end of the lake. There's quite a lot of water in front of me and it took me a long time to find spots. I thought that I was going to have a few bites last night, but sadly not. The swans wiped me out, the coots were picking me up, I caught tench. I've had absolutely no sleep, but I got up at 5 AM this morning, put the rods back out, and Joe come round to have a little morning catch up. We noticed a little bit of fizzing out in the middle. I reeled the rod in, took the pole out. How long's that been out for, Joe? 10 minutes? And we're finally into a carp. I was saying to Joe this morning, I love this swim. Really nice, secluded, away from other anglers. The lake's generally quiet anyway. All it needed was a carp. By the looks of it, I've got a nice one on here. Come on. This old one, crusty old one, get in that net. Could even be a 30-pounder. Get in that net, come on. Yes! Ah. Well, I'm glad I got up at 5 o'clock and had no sleep, because that, to me, looks like a 30-pounder. Get in there.
Yeah.
Old one as well by the looks of it. That will do. Let's get the rod back out.
There you go.
God, it's killer that sloping. It's a big girl.
That's XL picks.
That's a banger. Gales on it. Woo! Oh yeah.
I think this was £40 the other week.
That's old, man. That's an old fish, innit? XL peck, yeah, look.
Yeah, I think the size of that.
Yeah. How's that for your first one out the lake? I've had no sleep, but I'm an happy man. Come on. How's about this for your first fish from a new venue? I was impressed with this place from the off. 3 different lakes, really picturesque, definitely change of scenery to my usual style of angling in the city. But if I'm honest, I wasn't expecting to catch one quite that special. One of the proper old ones. What was it? XL peck it's called. As you can see, his pecks are absolutely massive. And sadly, this fish at the right time of year is a 40 pounder as well. So I nearly ticked off the 40, but I'll take 36. Just need Finley to get us our double and our 20.
Oh, that's away.
I'm in.
Is it?
Sorry about that. I had a liner and thought I was in again. But yeah, what was I saying? Mid 30, so all I need now is Finn to get our double and our 20, and then I'm going to stick it out in this swim, because you never know. There's plenty of 40s in this lake, and luck is clearly on my side. What a brilliant way to start off this session. Mega carp. Oh. Right, it's an old fish, so I didn't want to keep him out too long, so I'm just having his tail out the water. He's got a couple of little ulcers, wounds and stuff on his tail. Just putting a little bit of carp care on, just to make sure he goes back nice and healthy. That way, mate, you want to go. That's it, go on, turn round. Lovely stuff.
Well, this feels a little bit more carpy, doesn't it, mate?
Yeah, it does indeed. Yeah, yesterday it was quite a hot bit still, but today it's looking good, isn't it? So I'm back on the kids' pond, I'm ashamed to say. Jacob's caught a 30 pounder, which is brilliant because I suck at catching big carp. So he's ticked that off the list. And yeah, it's looking pretty good, isn't it? The wind's blowing down here, I've just put the rod in the edge. I've already had one little single carp again, so it doesn't really count for anything, so I've just put that one back. But there are a few fish down there. 1 or 2 of them look like they could be 20 pounds, so I'm just going to sit back and it's looking good.
You've seen some feeding on the valley lake as well?
Yeah, before I came up here, when Joe was round there with Jacob, I had a few fish feeding in the valley, set up a washing line, and I was feeling confident, but sort of the time sort of passed, the swans moved in, I sort of just gave up basically. So I've chucked a bit more bait down there, probably going to feed the swans, but luckily that's just down the hill there, so I can sort of keep an eye on both lakes, and then later on I will be going over there, because although Jacob's caught a 30 pounder, there's certainly plenty a lot bigger than that to catch. So yeah, give it a few hours over here again, hopefully catch a few, and then venture off somewhere else.
Oi, oi, is in.
I'm in, and it looks like we've got a double on.
Yes.
It might just be a double, but it's a double. So I was starting to pull my hair out. You'd think the amount of fish in here would be easier to catch. It's maybe taking about 20 minutes longer than expected. I was expecting it to take 20 seconds.
I weren't going to say anything.
It's using PVA hooks, but...
Yeah, well done, mate.
Yeah, get this one in the net, and then probably have a look back down there.
On the end of a fresh wind in the summer, textbook.
Doesn't get more big carp than this.
Well, we might need scales.
She could be very touch and go.
She's having a scrap though, isn't it?
Here she comes.
Scooper. Need to get you a pan net.
Well, we might have to go get the scales, because she might be £9.50 an ounce, we don't know. But it's bigger than the other one I caught, that's for sure.
I reckon it could be.
I don't think it is. Oh, no.
I reckon it is, you know. I reckon you might just scrape that.
We'll go get the scales.
We're going to have to, aren't we? Scales of justice.
It'd be so annoying if it's £9.50 an ounce. I'd say the last time I weighed a carp this size, I was probably about 11 years old. That was 9 years ago, but...
You don't fish matches then?
You've got to we've got to do it proper, you know what I mean? I could get this fish out, clearly a double, and there's going to be them people saying £8, £9, but I just want to prove to you, it is definitely a double figure carp.
I'm saying £11.
You're saying £11, I'm saying it is really close, to be honest, but we'll soon find out.
Don't worry, people, I'll make sure he zeroes the sling properly.
Wet it. Whoa, you bastard.
Oh, not another wet foot.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Ah, piss off. Ah, fuck off. You little bastard.
They don't make them like they used to, do they?
She is very close.
He's not sure.
You'll be able to tell by my face very quickly. It's bigger than £2. It's bigger than 4. It's bigger than 6. It's bigger than 8. It's bigger than 9. It's over 10.
Yes.
4. She's £12. £12.
Well, yeah, I'll give you that. That's £12, mate. Bang on. Skills.
Skills. I'd much rather take a 12-pounder than a 30-pounder. So I wouldn't really. But that is another one ticked off the list.
Well done. Right, now you're going to get off the kiddies pond.
Yep. She will do. If it was £2 lighter, I would not be saying that, but it means we've got a double figure carp ticked off the list. So I'm going to get it put back, and to be honest, I think that's going to be the session over on this lake. This swim is now called the Finn swim. I'm going to name this carp after myself because why not? So here's Finley the carp. We're going to put it back and go try and catch a 20-pounder or a 40-pounder.
Well, this looks quite tasty down here, mate, doesn't it?
Yeah, proper fishing over here as well. Wind's pushing down here. Jacob was in here yesterday. He had a run. I think it was a small one, but it shows that the fish certainly like this area. It's quite shallow out there, probably around anything from, what is it, 1 foot to 3 foot, would you say? Something like that.
Like a 4 if you go sort of 30, 40 yards.
Yeah, and like right now I'm looking at a little patch of fizz there. Seeing something move the surface over there, so I think there's a little swim further up. I think that's going to be, is that a fish? But yeah, I think that's going to be where I do certainly the next few hours, because them 20s and 40s certainly aren't going to get caught on the other lake. So go give Jacob a little visit, see what's happening down there, and then flick up the rods.
Ain't got time for that, mate.
Ain't got time for that.
No, we're not doing social visits today, mate. Look, there's fish feeding, there's cloudy water.
Look at it.
You've got to go and get some kit.
Let's go. Got anything, mate?
Absolutely knackered.
Alan Blair, you've got to get these lot in training.
I had 20 swan toners last night. Just as you're about to go to sleep, you're just there on the brink. Beep! Jumping up in me bare feet, thinking I'm in. Swan on me line. Good night.
Swan toners. Well, guess what? We've had a Barney Rubble.
Barney Rubble double.
We've just got a 20 and a 40 to go.
Oh, we've got a
You've
what
got
was it? What do you have? Like a
£12. We've only got skills, yeah.
Which lake?
A kid's pond.
That's cheating. So Barney Rubble double you've done, so we need a 20 and a what?
40.
20 and a 40.
And you had a 40 but it was spawned out.
Yeah, so that counts. That counts as a 40, doesn't it now? Yes, let's go. I'm just having a little siesta. The rods are out, so you never know.
Well, this looks a little bit more like it, doesn't it?
Yeah, feels better as well. It's giving me a bit of energy. So we put that one back from the very opposite end of the lake, and I wanted to stick it out a little bit longer. There was still a little bit of fizzing and activity, but it appears that the fish have definitely moved out of that corner now. There's a strong wind blowing down this end of the lake, and I decided to reel the rods in, come down here, have a little look, and was only probably here 5 minutes. Saw a little bit of a vortex, and then I actually saw one poke its head out. So I've moved. It's a long way, but we're here to catch fish, not sit there. I've left my bivvy in my bed in that swim because I don't want to write it off for sure, having only seen 2 shows here so far, but it's looking like the bulk of the fish are probably going to be making their way down this end of the lake. The wind is really pushing in. No one's here, so get these rods out, and I reckon we can get a few down here. We've seen another 3 shows in the time that I've tied 1 rig either side of me, so game on. Blimey. That was a good bite, wasn't it? I'd just been dumped. Oof. Don't think it's a big one the way it's going about. I'd just been picked up by a coot, checked the hook, put a little mesh bag on, dropped it back underneath that margin spot, and it's ripped off. Took me on a run for about 50 yards. Don't think it's a big fish if I'm honest, but it's not tiny. Could be our 20 pounder.
Or a 40.
No, it's not a 40. I suppose you never know. It's an angry one if it is. Plenty of life in it. Yes, it feels starting to feel a bit bigger now though, saying that. It's not a single. Off we go here. Oh, it's an horrible little common. I knew it was a lively one, but it's a good sign. I've seen plenty of fish showing here, and it looks really good on that wind. Yeah. Sadly, that's not going to account for anything because we've had our single, we've had our double, and I don't think that's a 20. Good sign though for this evening. Yeah, go on, you can do the honours, Finn. Bosh.
Well done.
Pulled hard, didn't it?
Well, it's not a 20 pounder and it's not a 40 pounder, but it's a bite, so it's looking really good for this evening. And it fought hard, yeah. Done me for about 50 yards. I was going to give you a lift, but see you later.
Yeah, it's bigger than 12 pounds anyway.
Finn is in.
We are in and we are back at the kids' pond. I gave it a few hours of a few chances. Jacob's had one. I was getting a few liners, but the two sizes of carp I've got to tick off the list still is a 40 pounder and a 20 pounder. Now, I feel like, yes, my chances are low over here of catching a 40 pounder because it is impossible, but it's a very small chance of a 20. So Joe came over here, got a few taken on the surface, so I decided to sheep him up, go get the surface rod, and I've hooked one. I didn't see how big it was when it took the bait, but it looks a little bit bigger than 12 pounds. Not the 20 we're after, but great fun nevertheless. Best thing about this complex is, since there's 3 lakes, if it's not really happening on one lake or you just fancy getting a pendant for rod, you can come to this lake. If you want a chance of a bigger one, there's the lake just behind me. I suppose that's one great thing, rather than just being sat on one lake with it not really happening, you can get on your toes and make it happen. And that's exactly what I've done this afternoon, although there might not be big fish. Phew, I know how to pull back, don't I? For little fish, for angry fish. I've only got a size 10 barbless on, so best off to take my time. There she is. Hey, great fun. Yeah, she's a bit bigger than the mirror, not the 20 pounder, but I'd rather catch a mid-double off the surface than blanking for an afternoon. It's absolutely chonked it. There she is. For people who thought that 12-pound mirror wasn't a mid-double, this certainly falls in the category of a double-figure carp. Hopefully he won't tell his friends and we'll have another chance on this lake, and maybe, if we're lucky, it'll be a 20.
Well, we're coming into that evening period now. It's been a lovely day weather-wise. The sun's just about to set. There's still fish showing, but I've not had anything since that common about 4 or 5 hours ago. The only thing I've had is a horrendous migraine. Don't know whether it's because I'm tired. I've just been away to Jamaica for 2 weeks, so still a little bit jet lagged. So I had about an hour and a half sleep, broken sleep it was, and then checked out this lake again. Still seeing them showing, so there was no need for me to sort of look to move anywhere else. I did briefly go back to the swim over there and spoke to the guy next door. He hasn't seen a great deal in there, so I'm going to stay here I then give it half an hour messing around with Finley on the kiddies pond, catching a few little commons, little 8-9 pounders. But I'm just going to give all these rigs a freshen up, put some fresh hook baits on and get these rods back out for the night. It's looking really good. I think all three of us are probably going to fish this end of the lake. There's plenty of fish showing. And yeah, not too hard. We've got a 40 pounder to catch in a 20. It's doable.
Don't stop
me now, 'cause I'm having such a good time. Apart from my head is killing. Just give me a 40. Mate, I don't know about a 40 pounder. To be fair though, you said there's more than 10 in here. But technically that one was a 40 that I had, won it, just down in weight. So if I have a 30 and a 20, is that mission complete? Kind of. Sadly, no bites last night, which is pretty disappointing to be fair, especially after being in that swim on the end of the wind for probably only 45 minutes and catching that common. I did think that it was going to be pretty prolific, but throughout sort of early hours of the night, the fish actually started spawning, which I did think from when we got here, they looked a little bit sort of, they weren't spawning, but they were chasing each other a little bit and they seemed to be moving too fast. And it's August, doesn't make any sense, but Carper carp, they're a wild animal and they've decided to have a late spawn. So obviously that wrote off the fishing. I was wondering why all night long I was getting loads of liners, but yeah, sadly no carp. Obviously saw them spawning in the rushes, so I've reeled in and I've come back to the other lake just next door. And it looks completely dead where we were fishing on that first day where Finley caught the catfish. But down here on this same wind, stood here for only a couple of minutes and I saw a nice common show. It's definitely one of the better fish, sort of in this middle section down in the wind. So I'm going to put a rod, I reckon, on the snag to the left. There's a nice overhang, and then one just out in open water. We are going to leave today, but you never know. At least I can try and get that 20 pounder and end on a bite. Finley's off running round bread bombing on the kiddies lake. But you never know, he might get a 20 out of there as well. So got a couple of hours left. Let's see if we can end on a high.
Poor old boy's tired. So Finn, we didn't catch up last night because it was dark by the time you got the rods out, but yeah, what happened?
Yeah, so I got the rods out, woke up at probably about 3:30 this morning. It was still pitch black, had a take, nothing on the end. Bit confused as to what was going on, put the rod out again, ended up catching a small common, and when I say small, it was smaller than the ones I was catching from the other lake. Woke up this morning and yeah, it was pretty obvious why, but action wasn't as prolific as we were expecting, and it's because a few carp have started spawning. So we've left them fish to it, just leave them in peace, and we've came down to the valley lake. Wind's pushing down here and yeah, I am pretty shattered to be fair. So I've got one rod out in this corner now. I had a few liners since I've put the rod out, we're seeing a couple of fish showing, so I was going to bring all 3 rods down here, but I've decided, there was one literally just there. I've decided just to go with one rod, just to create minimal disturbance, less lines in the area, and hopefully that will trick one up. But we've got today to make it happen. I think we're going to struggle catching a 40 from this lake, but a 20 pounder is still on the cards. Just got to have our fingers crossed.
Right, now we haven't really spoke to you much about anything other than this session, so you're actually from the other end of the country, aren't you?
Yeah, Cumbria. So right now we're down in Essex, that is correct, isn't it?
That's correct, mate,
yeah. And I'm from Cumbria, which is a place probably half of you have never heard of before, and it is the worst place in the country for carp fishing. I will give that certificate to that county. So a lot of my fishing involves travelling down south. A lot of it's day tickets just because it's easily accessible. When you're driving 5, 6, 7 hours, the last thing you want to do is turn up to a syndicate and it's full and you can't get fishing. So it's been quite nice down here on these lakes, because if one's busy or one's not really happening, I can move to another lake, and that is pretty much what my angling is these days. 90% on day tickets, just sort of flitting around, fitting in where I can and trying to make it happen. But yeah, Cumbria, good pike fishing, good trout fishing, good sea fishing, but carp, they're pretty much extinct up there.
And so as you're down south, we're obviously packing up today. Are you going to be visiting anywhere else whilst you're down this way?
Yeah, I might go linear just because it's on the way back up north. Yeah, normally if I'm driving somewhere and somewhere just pings into mind, I'll just pull over and check it out. So I reckon after here, I'll probably go up to linear, walk around a few of the lakes. I know a couple of people up there at the moment, they've caught a few fish. But if it's not happening, I go over and they're not catching, then I won't force it upon myself to get the rods out. I'd much rather get the rods out knowing that there's a chance of a bite. I do feel like there's a chance of a bite here, so I am going to give it a couple of hours in this corner. I did think there was going to be a chance further up near the shallows. I've been baiting a spot again and again, and there has been fish in my area pretty much the whole time that we've been here, but this morning it just seems a little bit lifeless. I think this new fresh wind pushing down here, this is where the fish have ended up. But
hopefully it's one of them nice ones.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I'm sick of catching. No, I'm not sick of catching little ones, because I love a bend in the rod, but I would like to see something a bit bigger.
Yeah, you've put the effort in, mate. It'd be
Yeah.
nice to see.
But if it rips off with a 5-pounder, then it rips off with a 5-pounder, or it could be a 35-pounder. I suppose that's a great thing about fishing. You just don't know what's going to happen, and you just got to take it how it comes.
Right, well, sadly, that is the end of the session. Hats off to the guys though, they worked really hard. Both of them have caught an exceptional amount of carp in their time, and I'm sure you'll be hearing loads more from these guys in the future. Just a quick one, I often get people ask me, do you know any good syndicate lakes? Now, my knowledge of syndicates is actually pretty poor, to be honest with you, but what I do know is a lot of the main ones have massive waiting lists, so you know, tend to have to wait a long time for your turn to come round. But this is somewhere that I've fished on and off over the years now. I think the first time I come here I was probably about 14 years old, maybe 15, so more years ago than I'd like to remember. But yeah, I've always had a good relationship with Chris and Charlie. They do an amazing job at looking after this place. You know, it's really kind of manicured, if you like. It's their back garden, really. So, you know, they put so much love and attention to detail in how the place looks aesthetically. But not only that, obviously, the fishing as well is, well, nothing short of exceptional. You know, there's a lot of big fish in this lake. Obviously, the lads were unlucky with the spawning. Don't normally get spawning this time of year, do you? But there you go, that's the luck of the draw sometimes, isn't it? And I think even the weather, you know, on another day with good conditions, I think they would have probably absolutely smashed that target. You never know, maybe we'll come back another time with them and have a round two. But yeah, as I was saying, if you're looking for a decent syndicate and you want to be out of the way, you know, they've got zero tolerance to idiots down here. There's no public footpaths or anything around here, so you're literally out in the depths of the Essex countryside. It's super peaceful, super tranquil, beautiful surroundings and loads of big fish. What more could you want? Hit 'em up.
Oh yeah, what about when I took a fish home? My mum didn't believe me when I was at a nipper that I was catching these 3-pound carp. And so I thought, right, so I caught this little 3-pounder, put it in a wet cloth, put it in my rucksack, walked all the way home, got home, run the bath, got home, opened it up, oh, it's still flapping. Run the bath, put it in the bath, and filled the bath up. And anyway, it kept coming up top, and I thought he wants food. Oh, well, I must be hungry. So I went and got some bread, and he weren't taking the bread, so obviously, didn't know then, but I know now, it was obviously lacking of oxygen, blah, blah, blah. And anyway, my mum come in and went absolutely mental. Ah, but Jesus Christ, you know, and so I had to take it back. So I wrapped it back up in the same rag. It was wet. Put it in my rucksack, took it back, and believe it or not, it went away, swimming away in the water.
Carping calamities. You know, when I think of all the things that have happened to me that have been like disastrous, 90% of them are all on the fishing boat. Like my actual fishing itself, I can't think. I mean, I've had a few funny ones where like a swan's gone through and all 3 of my rods have just wiped straight into the lake, things like that. But I've got them back. Like I've had a pretty bad one. I was on my fishing boat with a mate. It'd been a long day. I'd not caught. I'd probably done 3-4 nights for nothing leading up to this. So I was already a little bit peed off. Like I'd put loads of time in. And we were driving down the river. My mate was driving. I was on top of the boat. I had the rods leaning on the boat, so the top eye was probably just sticking over. And I was looking under a tree. I said to him, just take me near that tree. He went straight into it. Tree branches through all 3 of my scopes with the reels. Hello? That's a liner. Threw all 3 of my rods in the river, sunk to the bottom, and we spent 2 hours with the anchor trying to get these rods back. Eventually got them back. That night they were robbed off the boat anyway. So things like that. Also my engine breaking, I've had to buy new engines for the boat. Another good story on the boat, which was not fun at the time, is my first trip back for I think about 8 months. The boat had been, I'd had a fine for not using it for so long because you're supposed to move it every 2 weeks, and I just left it over the winter. Everything was robbed. I had my mate's bivvy, that got robbed. They nicked all my tools out of there that I used for DIY, and my engine was knackered. So I come back to this boat, absolute disaster. Just about managed to get the engine going, and there was a lock at the end of a stretch. I was with my mate, we were supposed to have this nice chilled day on the river, driving down, come up to this lock, and me being stupid, I've gone for a total donut, do a 360 to go back the other way. And what I didn't notice was this big steel girder sticking out the side of the canal. I've noticed right at the last minute, oh, damn it, damn it, damn it. I don't know if you've seen the film Grease Lightning, where the cars come together and he's got a big spike and he rips the side of the car off. But that's what's happened. I've turned and it's gone and just ripped a big gaping hole out the side of the fiberglass that long in this boat that I've had for like less than a year. So it's still there now. Luckily it was above water level, but it's just this big strip, this big hole through the side of my boat. So I've had plenty of things like that have gone wrong, most of which are all on the boat, because boats are just a recipe for disaster. But yeah, in general, not too unlucky when it comes to fishing, so hopefully I can keep like that.
Yo, 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 right, quickly, just before I start this month's diary piece, I get quite a lot of people ask me if I do private tuitions. Now, if I'm 100% honest with you, it's a struggle to find the time to do that, even though I could do with the money. So if you make me an offer I can't refuse, I might try and squeeze it in. But in the meantime, I've also managed to sort out 48 hours at Ashbury Fisheries Top Lake on the 16th to the 18th of November. Now 4 anglers can come along to that. We'll have a social. If there's anything you want to ask me, if you want a tuition, then we can make it a tuition. I'll spend X amount of hours with you. I'll try and spread my time between the 4 anglers. And the way that's going to work is on a bids basis. So basically the top 4 bids by the start of November will win those spaces. It's a mega fishery, as you saw from last year with Ash on there, about this time of year as well. He absolutely rinsed it with some massive carp. So yeah, if you fancy a bit of that, that's available. And all you have to do is send your bid to thecarpangle@gmail.com. Many thanks. Right, mind you, after this diary piece, you might not want a tuition. Well, hello and top of the morning to you. We are back at the mighty Longreach Lake on St Ives. It's been a while since I've been up here, probably about 2 months. Just been really busy with other bits and pieces and yeah, not had the time to commit to it. But spoke to Matt yesterday and by all accounts, I've not missed a lot at all. Starburst come out again, 3rd time this year. It's friendly that one, isn't it? Not with me though. And apart from that, apparently it's just been some of the smaller ones out. So yeah, there's been a few guys plugging away constantly, but for whatever reason, it's been a very little tricky lake this year. So I'm glad I didn't waste 2 months up here slogging it out in the boiling hot. But yeah, today's the first trip I've been out where it's actually felt a bit cooler and got that kind of little taste of autumn in the air. But I got down last night in the evening, just literally got the rods out just as it was getting dark. 2 of them on the spot that I normally fish in here. Didn't bother with any other rods because I just sort of kind of wanted to have less lines in the area and didn't want to make too much disturbance either. Now last night I sat up till probably about 12:30 and I did actually hear 3 fish in the night, or up to that point, and all of them were up this left-hand margin. One of them actually sounded very close to my bait, so yeah, that's a good sign. And this morning I've been up since, well, half an hour before sunrise, and I've not actually seen anything. It's like the lake does not feel like it's switched on at the moment, and it does have a habit of being a bit like that, this place, on or off. But like I said, with what I have heard, I feel like I'm in the right place. So, and it's obviously bite time now. So yeah, if it's going to happen, it's a good chance it's going to happen in the next 2 or 3 hours. I'd love to see one just stick its head out over my spot, or a bit of bubbling, or even better, one of them just wrap round, pretty much locked up, because there is a snag about a rod length behind where I'm fishing. So yeah, got to be on it quick. And for that reason, I've got my rods where they're grabbable as well. I see so many anglers on this lake putting their rods right out in the water, and all that means is that you've got to get your waders on before you get to the rod, and it's just another process that's taking you longer to get there. And there's a lot of hazards in this lake, so you want to be on that rod as quick as possible. So yeah, wherever possible, I'll always try and get it within in a reaching position. Does that make sense? I put my rods where I can grab them without my waders, and then obviously you can get in control of the fish and then get the waders on if you need to, or as I generally do, just run out in bare feet, socks or trainers or whatever's on, straight into the lake. Yeah, it was a full moon on Saturday. Yesterday was Sunday, so we're still in that sort of peak period of the full moon. So yeah, who knows, hopefully something special is going to come along. A friendly common would be nice. I've actually moved house in the last week, so I'm down in Kent now. I think I'm going to have to try and find some waters a bit more local to me, just because the petrol or fuel prices, or my car's diesel, but yeah, just getting out of hand, aren't they? And everything else, like you go to the supermarket and buy what you think's like 20, 30 quid's worth of stuff, and it's actually like 50, 60 quid's worth. It's just insane how much everything's costing. Anyway, on a positive note, I'm really happy to be out on the bank, and hopefully we're going to get to meet another long reach carp that I've never met before. Wow, I sat in the beach for 2 nights and 1 full day, and very little activity. At night time, I heard 3 the first night, which is obviously what made me stay there the second night, up that left-hand margin. And then last night, I heard 2 up that left-hand margin. But I just don't think they're coming along that channel. You've got these bars that run out from this bank along here. And one thing I've always noticed with this lake is that it's almost like there's more activity going on in one channel or bar at one time. It's like, like that area of the lake is sort of most alive, and everything is reacting to that, you know, the smaller fish, and then the pike are going to the smaller fish and the other fish and blah 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 blah. But yeah, because the bars are so shallow either side of these deep troughs, it's almost like every trough is a lake in itself, you know, because they're sort of what, 150 yards, just roughly off the top of my head, long by sort of 20-30 yards wide, you know, like a match lake if you like, and every single one of them has got a marginal shelf if you like. Obviously it doesn't go up to the surface, but they've got them steep shelves which are obviously littered with food. So I'm thinking, like, there was one show out here this morning, and there was a little bit of bubbling. I couldn't tell you whether it was a carp or a bream or a tench that rolled, but there was definitely a show out there. And there was bubbling within the same sort of vicinity. Quite consistent, to be fair. Yesterday there was bubbling everywhere, but today has been mostly in this area. And then earlier on there was a ripple that got up, and there was a flat spot out there. So anyway, I sat on the bench in the corner for a good couple of hours watching the water, just sort of praying for a sign really, and that was literally the only sign I had. I'll tell a lie, a bream did roll in that vicinity as well, and in the past I found quite often the carp will be around with the bream as well, hang around with the bream as well. So with very little to go on, I've dropped into this swim and flicked 3 rods into that rough sort of vicinity where where the most activity was. And I spoke to Simon Kenny this morning, who's been sort of 3/4 way along, and he's actually had a move today, so he's obviously not seen anything up that end. So I think, you know, although it feels like there's been very little going on up here, potentially there's more going on up here than there is up there, and you know, it's just a case of waiting for that switch to be flicked and the lake to turn on, as it often is with this place. That's one thing I really learnt here in my early days, was that, you know, you can waste a lot of time when it feels like it's not on. If the fish aren't showing, and there's no sort of feeding activity, then you're pretty much peeing in the wind. So yeah, rather than just sit it out, I'd go off to other lakes or, you know, next door or whatever, to try and find an opportunity. Whereas I'm trying to kind of stick it out this year, or have been anyway. You know, when I have been down here, I've just been like, right, no, don't get distracted. Just sit it out and wait, and, you know, just keep your eyes on the prize. And that one little thing that could give the game away could be, you know, everything you need to give you the information to get you that next bite. So yeah, I'm going to persevere. I did even consider going home today or going to another lake, but I'm going to do another night at least, and then see how it goes. Because, like I say, even if they were in this vicinity and they come along that margin, if they weren't going up my trough, my channel, where I was next door, then obviously I wasn't going to catch them. But in the past, I've known them to sort of come along that margin and then come up this second trough or the third trough. So yeah, just basically worth a go. I'll keep you posted. Lovely cup of fresh coffee. Mucho importante. Well, last night I did have some activity. I had an eel at about 4 in the morning, and then first light I had a little jack pike. Not the one at all. And then this morning I've been sitting here watching the water. There was patches of fizz again, sort of out where I'm fishing, or very close to where I'm fishing. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, surely if that was carp, I would have seen something, some other signs, you know, like one would have stuck its head out cleaning its gills or whatever, you know, like. Anyway, so it got to like 10:30, and I thought, right, I've had enough of this. I'm absolutely peeing in the wind here. So got my bivvy packed up, started to tidy away a bit. And I looked out where them fizzers were, and a fish popped up on the surface. I'm like, what? So there is fish. So they have been in the vicinity, they're just not showing for whatever reason. And they've definitely been having a munch. I guess they're preoccupied on some kind of naturals. But, you know, I was kind of in the right zone, and yeah, I don't know what's going on really. But like I say, I was totally ready to go home. Yeah, I don't know whether, I think I've just got to sit on my hands, because if I start casting about, I'm going to just spook them. Just got to, yeah, sit on my hands and hope for the best. Deflation in the nation. Wow, it's been another quiet night and another quiet morning. Not seen any shows again this morning. Haven't had that activity out there on that bar around the weed and that, so don't think they've returned yet. However, about half hour ago I did have a massive drop back on one of my little short beefed up zigs. Wound into nothing, and the hook point was bent over a little bit. So either I got done by a carp or potentially might have got done by a pike. I'm going to tell myself it was a pike. They are quite ravenous in here. Yeah, I have had them on those before, so potentially it's probably what it was. So I'm going to tell myself it was anyway, because otherwise I'll be kicking myself. But yeah, it's not playing ball this lake at the moment, or the fish aren't anyway. Like in the beach earlier on this week, there was bait floating in, like boilies and tiger nuts, that obviously just rotted on the bottom and then floated in. And I've always felt on here that you can't really compete with the natural food. I see this place as like carp heaven, really. You know, they've got so many different features. You think of all those different bars, creating all them different troughs and those kind of like marginal shelves, if you like. Obviously there's different types of food everywhere, and so I just see it as like, imagine living somewhere like the best place ever, and you've got the best restaurants available to you with the best quality food, and it's all for free. And obviously, you know, you want a bit of variety for your nutrition and for your sort of taste buds as well. So you're going to know what restaurants you want to go to at what times, and when them restaurants are at their peak times, when they've got the freshest ingredients in. And that's basically what you're up against in this lake. The fish have got more natural food than they could ever possibly need. Like the snails, the mussels, bloodworm, and everything else, you know, countless other types of food sources that they get on at certain times when they're blooming. So, yeah, it is one of them places where you are massively up against it. And like I say, over the last 3 years when I've been dabbling on it, I've never seen anyone really use bait to their advantage, to, you know, making it work for them. And a lot of the fish I've had out of here have just been, you know, on either single hook baits or small amounts of bait, you know, not much, but the main key being just to be getting where they are at that time, where they're wanting to be. You know, like I mentioned before, it seems like there's certain areas that are going off at certain times, be it a bar or a trough. And I feel like, you know, I was on that zone. There were fish out here, so I should have had a chance, but just feel like they were probably just feeding in the weed, in the mid layers. Otherwise, I think there would have been bigger bubbles and more shows as well. And also, I don't think there was that many of them out here, but there certainly was some fish, and I think, you know, maybe there was something I could have done to try and get a bite, but Anyway, I'm going on a bit and I apologise for that. Not sure when I'm going to get back out next. Oh well, Longreach. It's nice to see you again. Thanks for the kicking. Well, autumn is truly upon us now. It's been a couple of weeks since I was last out for that mega blank session on Longreach. Came back up to St Ives yesterday. Spent a good few hours looking on Longreach, but nothing to go on. A couple of other anglers on there. They hadn't seen anything either. So I just thought to myself, right, well, actually I did do one night on the end of the wind, just hoping that there might be a chance of seeing something in the morning or in the evening, but I didn't. And I thought, right, this diary piece can't just be a full blank, can it? So I had a little look over on the shallow this morning and saw a few fish showing out in the middle. So that was enough for me. I packed up my gear, come over here. Didn't want to make any disturbance throughout the morning because there's a couple of other people fishing, and obviously didn't want to be whipping the water to a foam during prime bite time. So I went and had a coffee with them. Woke up with a splitting headache this morning. I've not really had any for a little while, but the last 3 nights I've been waking up at 3 in the morning and then struggling to get back to sleep. So I think that caught up on me, and yeah, banger of a headache, which did go after getting some paracetamol off Darren. Cheers, Darren. But now it seems to be returning. Anyway, enough of my moaning. So I've come on a swim, into a swim known as the Double. Commands a sort of centre of the lake, or one of the swims that commands the centre of the lake. But again, I didn't want to be whipping the water to a foam. So instead of fishing actual spots and putting bait out, I thought I had a quick flick, well, half a dozen casts with a lead just to see what it's like out there, and then decided to just put 2 short zigs out there, about 1.5 foot depth in probably about 4.5 foot of water, and I've just got like 3/4 of pop-up and a little bunch of maggots on the top of that. And obviously just trying to do something a little bit different. There hasn't been any bites out of here for the last 5 or 6 days, I think. It had a bit of a hit, I think, before that. But they're obviously showing, they're moving about, so I think maybe just something in their face, a little bit different, low level zig, beefed up to the max. I even went for size 4 wide gapes, 15-pound fluorocarbon. So yeah, they look pretty big, but I think the fish swimming over them, they don't really see the hook and that anyway, do they? And then out to my right, I'd seen a couple of shows when I was sitting over there with Darren, about 40 yards out off of here, and had a flick out there. Literally the first cast just went crack, and this real fine, like pea shingle or something, you know, in amongst a load of weeds. So mega feeling spot. So I've just put a solid bag on that for now, with a few little bits and pieces in there, you know, a bit of ground bait, a few pellets, a few nuts, bit of salt, and just a little palm full of maggots. So I'm just going to fish that for a bite for now. Maybe put a few spoms on that later on, but obviously I had seen a bit of activity in that area, so I don't really want to be going making loads of disturbance. I think obviously this is a smaller lake compared to the others, so it is a different ball game, and they're going to react to pressure a lot more as they do on the smaller lakes. So yeah, I've got a lovely view and I've got 48 hours ahead of me. Let's see what we can pull out of the bag. That's a big one. Definitely a big one.
48. No way.
Yeah, it's just well, it's about 48. It just, yeah, I'd say bang on 48.
What's that, 45?
No, just
You've zeroed that?
Mate.
Have you zeroed it with the sling? Which one is it? Come on, I must know. That's not BJ for sure, so. Rusty's, it could be Rusty.
It's not Laney's, because Laney's hasn't got these scales on it. It's got to be BJ, isn't it, with a mouth like that?
I called it 41 last week.
Oh, really? Oh, it's definitely. Well,
At least that wasn't BJ.
what is it then?
That looks like BJ.
It does, doesn't
I
it?
think it's BJ. Weirdly. I don't know how that.
Surely it must have not been BJ that you caught last.
Rusty's you had last week.
Couldn't have been, because it was a low weight for it. This is the weight for BJ. All right?
Ooh, looking more who's it, mate?
Guten Morgen. Wow, very different day today. It's cold. There's a southwesterly which I thought would blow a bit more into the bay to my left, but at the moment it must have more southerly in it than westerly because it's coming straight in my face. Cool, chilly, misty. I'd like to say carpy. I mean, it feels carpy, it looks carpy, but I've not seen anything showing. I've not had a single bleep. Yeah, I've got very little faith at the moment, other than, like I say, it feels good, and I know I'm fishing tidally, so got to keep the faith, ain't you? You might have noticed a bit of scratch on my nose. Someone cast over me, so we had a big tear up. You should have seen the state of him. No, not really. Darren over there, he's got a dog, and yeah, he's a proper character. Always likes to have a little bit of a play fight and that. So yeah, I was having a bit of a laugh with it, and Darren kept saying, "Easy Joe, don't wind him up and mind that right hook." And he said, "Mind that right hook" about 4 different times, I reckon. And in the end, bang, it got me with a right hook. It must have some sharp little nails on it, claws, sorry, because he scratched my nose right up. Sort of, what is it, 48 hours later now, and it's, yeah, if I wipe it, it's still bleeding. So, yeah, cheers for the scar. Oh, nice cup of Rosie Lee. Oh, actually, yeah, big shout out to Scully. Scully's on Longreach at the moment, and I brought fresh coffee with me and managed to leave my cafetiere at home. And yesterday I had a little wander around there. He made me a coffee, and I mentioned that I'd left it at home. And he said, "Oh, I've got another one here, lad." I'm not very good at a Scouse accent. But yeah, check him out. He had a spare wafty. Watch out for those eels. They do a full range of coffee bits and bobs. Shameless plug, being that this has helped me out massively. Yeah, you're not getting that back, Scully. Yeah, I think there's a good chance that we might have an opportunity this morning, and I think I'm just going to have to sit it out, you know, sit on my hands. It's not really my type of fishing, especially as I haven't actually seen anything, but I feel like I've got more chance in here than I have at Longreach. I'm a little bit worried that there's going to be 20-mile-an-hour winds and rain blowing straight into my bivvy. I've already spun it round at a bit of an angle, but I might have to get a bit more out of it, as I don't really fancy that in my face. Doesn't sound very pleasant, does it? Come on, Laneys, where are you? Let's be having ya. Guten Morgen. Well, I didn't end up doing that last night on the shallow pit last week. Wasn't feeling it, hadn't seen anything, and it was going to absolutely tip down. So yeah, got out of there, got home, and had a nice weekend. Come back last night, which was Monday, and spent the last couple of hours of daylight looking about on Long Reach, because I thought to myself, I nearly ended up going somewhere just where I could get a couple of bites, you know, because I thought, look, I've got 5 nights of blanking on my diary so far, no more than that, 8 nights of blanking on my diary so far for this month, so there's obviously not really anything that interesting there for you. So I thought, well, I should go somewhere and try and get a couple of bites. But you know, the reality of this big pit low stock fishing is that you have got to struggle sometimes, you know, and if I was to go elsewhere, then I'm definitely not going to catch anything or learn anything about what's going on. You know, my finger's really not on the pulse with this place at the moment, and yeah, that's not going to be improved by not being here. But I don't know, something about this lake, it just seems to switch off completely in the autumn. It did sort of 2 years ago when I was here, to the point that I pulled off. I'm trying to keep at it, but it is hard to keep up the enthusiasm when you're just not seeing anything. You know, it's such a low stock for the size of the lake, and when they're not giving away any signs whatsoever, then it is 100% a guessing game. And you know, you could get it so wrong so easily, and yeah, just be peeing in the wind, if you like. But anyway, I've come up onto the swim I was last on when I was at Long Reach, where I saw a few fish, but also it's because I got such a good view from here. So yeah, hopefully, I mean, I've been up for the last probably 2.5 hours since before it got light, and I've not seen any signs whatsoever. So it feels good. And the trouble on here is the southwesterly blows to the back bank, and the back bank's all out of bounds. There's a big buoy line that runs down there. So yeah, you can't fish that side at all. And so there's another thing that's massively against you in this lake. When the weed's not about, you know, when it dies off, or in the spring before it's come up, they just tend to spend a lot of their time over that buoy line, where they're, well, I guess they know they're safe there, but also there's probably, you know, they've got a bit of everything. I think all around this lake they've got every kind of delicacy they could possibly wish for, just larders upon larders of it. So yeah, I know I'm like making me excuses here, but yeah, it is a very tough lake, and it's well, it's almost impossible when you're playing this guessing game. I'll give it tonight and tomorrow morning and see what's happening, and then assess the situation from there. But yeah, apologies if I don't sound too upbeat. It's hard to keep up the enthusiasm when you've got so little to go on. Come on, fish, throw me a bone. Well, it's mighty carpy out there today, to be sure, but nobody told the carp that, did they? Yeah, I've literally seen absolutely nothing. I moved yesterday into the beach, which was next door to where I was, just because the wind was banging over onto this bank. And I thought, well, if they're using that buoy line, then this is as close as I can get to them. So fished my spot up the left-hand margin last night, and then went on a bar, the first bar. But like I say, I just haven't seen anything at all, and as you can tell by the tone in my voice, I'm feeling very uninspired. I've packed up my bivvy, it's just my rods that are out now. It looks so good, really, really expected to see something here this morning or get a bite, but yeah, I think I'm ready to throw the towel in, hang up the white flag for here on here this year. Just because I think at the moment, you know, I've got a lot of other stuff going on in my head, other things I need to do, and sitting it out for days on end on these rock hard, low stock venues, yeah, just ain't the one for me at the moment. I think I need to be somewhere where I can be a bit more proactive and, you know, sort of bait up some spots, do overnighters, So yeah, basically I need to find somewhere a little bit closer to home where I feel like I'm going to have more of a realistic chance of being able to get some good content for you guys, because obviously you don't want to just sit there watching me blank week after week. And I think with the way the weather's going to be going over the next few months, and this place is only going to get harder, so yeah, I feel like a bit of a defeatist, but sometimes you've got to make these decisions, haven't you? So yeah, anyway, that'll be it for this month's diary piece. I apologise for the lack of fish and the lack of inspiration and entertainment. I probably shouldn't have even put this one on the show, but there you go. I know some people like to see others struggle. No, I mean, it's real at the end of the day, isn't it? We all blank. It's part of fishing, and especially at this time of year, for whatever reason, this time of year seems to be granite. Right, anyway, I'm going to sign off there. Adios, amigos. Hopefully next month will be a little bit more productive. Well, just made it in time for a bit of a sunset going on over the back there. Well, I gave up on Long Reach. Didn't see anything, so I packed up. I was going to go home, but I thought, no, let's go and have a look up the road at another lake. So I went up there, spent 5 hours walking around, looking. Didn't see anything whatsoever. I looked on the end of the wind, on the back of the wind, and yeah, it was just dead. So came back to St Ives, had another look at Long Reach, had a look at the shallow, and then had like about an hour left of light. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to come and have a look over on the lagoon, which is one that I've not really fished before. And yeah, I had a look about, didn't see anything, and went for an area that kind of felt good in the end, going with the old gut feeling thing. And when I came and done a little bit of drone footage over here, and I've done the interview with Gordy in the summer, I noticed a really nice area out here off the side of this. There's a bar that runs between here and the island, which is always chocker with weed in the summer. And there was a nice area just off the right of it, just before the island, that looked sort of polished, you know. And yeah, I had a quick flick around with the lead, and it is very clear out there. It's probably about sort of 6 foot on the left, and then about 8 foot on the right. It feels bang on, to be honest with you. And just as I was putting one of my rods out, a fish showed about 20 yards behind it. So I was, oh, finally, I've seen a fish today. And obviously, you know, pretty blooming good that it was just behind where I'm fishing. I put out about half a dozen spoms, just spread around in a line, and put 3 rods out on the same distance in that clear area. So yeah, strangely enough, I'm feeling like there might be a chance of a bite tonight. Oh wow, that colour over there looks mega. Right, I'm going to sign off now. Fingers crossed, something will happen. I'll keep you posted, but I need to be filming that gorgeous bit of colour in the sky over there. Look at him giving it the big one up there. Yeah, come on then, mate. You want some, do ya? Come on. Do ya? Hello, gorgeous. How you doing? You all good? Yeah? You have a good sleep, yeah? Nice journey into work? Excellent, excellent. So you're all good, yeah? Yeah, excellent. So, yeah, I know I said that we'd do something nice tonight. But the trouble is, I'm still blanking, and I could really do with catching one. I did see a couple this morning, not too far away from my zone, and yeah, so I just wondered whether, you know, tomorrow night maybe instead we could do something. Yeah, I'll get like a couple of nice fillet steaks in, and you know, do some nice homemade chips, and tomatoes and onions and, yeah, you know, all the trimmings. Yeah, yeah. Hello? Hello? Shit. And there he is, the blank busting mirror. Definitely not going to win any awards for the prettiest carp, but it could win an award for the biggest bum hole. Look at the size of that. Let's be careful my finger doesn't slip up it. So if this one hasn't already got a name, maybe it should be called the butthole mirror. Sorry mate, I don't mean to put you down. I'm massively chuffed to catch you because you've done me a right favour, and by the looks of it, I've done you a favour because the sling is absolutely full of my bait. So he's obviously having a party out there. The question is, were you on your own or did you have boots fully with you? And is it worth staying another hour or two? Mega. Right, we're going to get this one back, start getting tidied up, leave them rods out till about 10:30. Chuffed. Happy days. Wow, nice little bit of autumnal colours as a backdrop for this month's out. As you can see, I did manage to drag myself away from the lake, finally. It was a bit of a struggle, but I got there in the end, and I've now got to crack on with a load of editing. But before I sign off for this month, just wanted to say a massive thank you to everyone who contributed last month. As a result of the figures being higher, then there was more people who contributed towards the cause. For the prizes, for those people who contributed more than £5 or more, sorry, last month, I'm going to do a draw on Instagram this week, probably towards the end of the week, so keep an eye on that for that. But for this month, I've got another load of prizes for you. Quite a few companies stepped up and said, "Here, Joe, I'll sort you out a prize this month." And so what have we got? We have got 2 subsurface magazines. If you've not seen that before, that's a magazine that the guys have produced. They used to produce like a journal, which are amazing. Well, I think they're now worth over £100. So yeah, it just shows how good they were and how much of a collector's item they are too. So this is another one well worth getting your hands on. Forget all of that though, it's more just the fact that it's full of inspiration and amazing photography, some really good stories and some good interviews as well. So check out that. Alongside those 2 magazines that we've got to give away, we've also got 2 subsurface baseball caps which look ultra smart and tarty as well. Second up, we've got 4 lots of 5 tubs of corns. Now this is the tails up corns that Ash Bradbury does. There's lots of lakes these days banning plastic, and as a result of that, Ash has produced these safe baits which obviously break down like any other bait. So if you want to top your boilies off, or if you want to fish corn over your corn, then they are the perfect hook bait to do that with. He does them in super corns, which are super buoyant, and then his normal buoyant ones too. So yeah, there's a little selection of those 4 lots of 5 tubs. What else we got? Right, I've also got a dynamite bait package. There's 5 kilos of complex T boilies, and then all the pop-ups to go with that. So you've got food bait pop-ups, fluoro pop-ups, and the liquids. It's obviously a proven bait that's caught a hell of a lot of carp over the years, and yeah, I believe it was something to do with a guy called Terry Earn. Aside from that, or last should I say, but certainly not least, we have got a game changer of a product, and we've got 2 of these to give away. These are the Carp Life bird torches, and trust me when I say you need one of these in your life. I've been using them to good effect this week. Well, I've used it for good effect since they ever sent me one, to be fair, but particularly this week whilst I was up at St Ives, and even in the daytime this will scare away coots from your spot. Now quite often I use little solid bag rigs which aren't exactly self-resetting, so I don't want a bird to be picking it up and dropping it away from the little parcel of bait that's surrounding it. So these things are crucial to keep them birds at bay. And alongside the 2 of these which we've got to give away, we've also got 2 of the Carp Life needle kits, which are a fantastic bit of kit. They come with 4 different attachments, and yeah, so you've got a drill on there, different baiting needles, and it all sits in a nice neat little needle. You just unscrew the end and take them out, and there's also a little protruding bit on the end which is perfect for getting into loops and tightening them down whilst retaining that nice rounded profile. So yeah, a nice selection of prizes there to give away for you people who are contributing £5 or more. You can do so on PayPal. It's the carpangle@gmail.com. The link is actually in the information below this video, and that also gives you an option to pay by card, so you don't even need a PayPal account at all. So, sorry for going on. I feel like I've been doing, you know, here's what you could have won. All these different prizes, right, the memory game. Anyway, I hope you have a fantastic month. I'll be back in 4 weeks' time. I've just had a phone call today offering me a rather interesting bit of fishing. So for the next few weeks, I've got a little window of opportunity somewhere that sounds pretty cool, to be honest with you. But I shall keep you updated on that. I'll make sure that I'll be filming everything that goes on, and that'll be on the show at a future date. Right, have a lovely month. Big love to you all.